Warning, we tried really hard not to talk about Star Trek Picard. So if you're watching this before the premiere of Star Trek Picard has started, there's no spoilers for the show because we haven't seen the show itself. But we talk a lot about the trailers, the clips, the news, stuff surrounding Picard. So if you're not interested in hearing that kind of discussion, be warned. It's mixed in. All right. Everyone else who is here for it all, enjoy.
Welcome to Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal discussion about our beloved series, Star Trek.
I am recording. I record everything from now on. Everything shall be recorded.
Too.
I
am check in.
recording.
All right, everyone. Let me. Just
I give this episode a 13 out of 10. Thank you for having me.
Wow, stop. That didn't make it to the video portion. So now I have to leave it in. I can't cut this out because it's all the unprofessional stuff before we actually start. I have to leave it in because that's on the record. Let's do the I like that better than the clap. I wish we could. Next time we should all open soda cans together.
Sody pop.
Sody pop. All right, 1, 2, 3, clap.
I refuse.
Oh, come on, that was terrible. No one did it. On time. 1, 2, 3, clap. 1, 2, 3, clap. 1, 2, 3, clap. And that also shows you how much delay there is. If you see the person clapping after you know how much delay there is, so I can talk slower or faster. Yeah. We're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. This is the under the weather edition, but my doctor insisted that I do things like sit up and walk around and things like that, but I don't think it's that strain. But there's a Chinese virus going around, and now it's hit me harder. At the moment, Starfleet Boy can only retain water, so I'm drinking water out of my usual coffee mug.
Yes, of course.
Oh, hi, Guaylo. San Hai Ka. That's
wow.
all the Cantonese.
You actually. Oh, wow.
I'm impressed by both things that are happening right now. You just randomly broke into fucking. Like, you can speak.
Cantonese.
And you have a Captain Picard Day mug. I feel I bring nothing to the conversation.
I used to work with a girl from Hong Kong, and we traded Spanish lessons for Cantonese lessons.
That's amazing.
And that's all I retained that. Gong Hei Fat Choi, which is just Happy New Year. And
wow.
And then my favorite, because it explains how beautiful the language is, which is Mao Dao Ying, which is the word for owl. But each part of the word, so it means Mao is cat, Dao is head, and Yin is eagle. So it's cat-headed eagle is an owl.
Oh, beautiful.
And I'm like,
it is a cat-headed eagle.
But if you
Owls are totally cat-headed eagles. Oh my gosh, I never. There's times where Arthur looks like an owl without wings. He might be a owl-headed
Could you imagine
dog?
he just one day sprouts wings in front of you?
He's an owl-headed dog. It would be amazing.
That would be legit terrifying, to be honest. He would shit himself.
Demon cat.
Your actual impression was terrifying as well. Just FYI.
You do remember the cat I had for 17 years? He was a special
Yes,
one.
Benu. Oh, rest in peace, Benu.
Yes.
Well, thank you for joining me, gentlemen. Today I went on that tangent about being sick to let you guys know why I look and sound terrible today. But I'm here.
Will your boss be watching this live as you're sick?
Well, yes, except I'm on my off time at the moment, so there's no reason my boss needs to get involved. So thanks, Sean. I don't know what oppressive land you work in where you can't do things like a podcast or talk to your friends online, but in America, we can be sick and also do
I
work
live
and
in
things.
all of the other countries in the world which are not free.
Everywhere else,
This is
basically.
true.
Everywhere else, we all have these terrible rules and regulations.
Conversation. This is an appropriate conversation.
We're all
for this
governed by
episode 'cause,
inappropriate admirals that we don't know how they got there.
like Pressman, there's too many. That's why Picard became an admiral, but it didn't work. In my guess, that's my guess about why Picard went into the Admiralty.
It's about you.
I have no idea.
Kirk and Picard declined the Admiralty. They're like, nah.
I have to now place that Star Trek Picard warning in front of this episode of Starfleet Boy TNG discussion as well, because obviously we're going to talk about Star Trek Picard. So I apologize, audience, in advance. But none of us have seen the show.
Guest spoilers.
None of us have seen the show. I haven't read any spoilers about the first 3 episodes. I don't think anyone here has.
Surprisingly, as somebody who
Except that, yeah.
Surprisingly, as somebody who usually looks for the spoiler information as fast as possible,
You haven't.
I have not touched.
I
Picard.
love it.
I have not touched Picard.
My up to datedness is up to the clip that they revealed, which shows like the first like minute of the show,
right.
and
Is
I'm
it
already
is
like,
it the first minute,
I
or
was
is it
like,
just a minute? It's a random minute of the show, I think. Is it?
I think that's the first minute. I think we just saw how Star Trek Picard starts.
You know what's insane is I watched that.
Did you see the clip, Ruben? Have you seen it? You're not there yet?
I watched it.
Okay.
I watched it on my
Keep it up.
on my computer, and it was just kind of like a clip, like any other. But then when I showed wife on the tube, I was sitting on the couch and I put it on the TV. It was on the big screen, and it just kind of opened, and you just kind of sit there, and I don't know. I was like, the music and like the scene clearly continues on because they cut it, right? This is part of the show. It's supposed to, and I was sitting there and I was comfortable, and I was like, the show has begun, and then it just stopped. And damn it, no! I felt like I was like, just give me the episode. I need to see it.
I'm surprised that you're a popular YouTuber, Sean. I'm surprised you didn't get like a press kit from CBS. I would have sent.
Of course.
If I were in the press department, I would have sent you a press kit with like and you, Ruben, you're a writer. You're like you're like known.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah, I don't do reviews very often.
I'm the only unknown person here.
I probably could have requested a press kit for sure because I've gotten it before easily.
You're just lazy.
No, I just don't normally do reviews, so I don't like reviews.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna take the time to shout out a channel that really doesn't need a shout out because he's got like over 3 million subscribers. The channel is called Emergency Awesome.
Emergency Awesome. I've never heard of that one. Or yes, it's come across once or twice, but I never saw it.
Host is a guy called Charlie, and he does mainly superhero stuff, so the MCU or the Arrowverse, that kind of stuff. But he does talk about Star Trek a bit, does talk about Star Wars a lot, and I think his videos are absolutely fascinating. He gets all of his facts right all the time, all of his theory craft is correct, and all of the Easter egg videos that he does is just all great. And I'm very, very, very surprised that he wasn't invited. Like big channels like this, I'm just surprised that CBS don't actually like take the initiative to like invite these guys over, have them be part of this, and have their reaction
of like the election
as a video,
because
his videos get millions of views.
What the criteria? I think it's like the election of the Pope. Yeah, what color is the smoke? It's that kind of thing. I think that it all depends on your relationship with the press department is what I think it all comes down to. Some people are very diligent about communicating with the press department and getting a hold of these things, because I will say what I found quite wonderful was that it was all sorts of people going to the premieres. It wasn't just like press people. Like there was I think it should be mentioned that I'm in favor of less channels of YouTube people getting invited if more fans, just like regular people, got invited, because I always loved going to those screenings. Remember my friend here, Ruben, when we worked at a radio station, we got invited to crazy
all sorts
releases
of
that were like we went to the movies almost every week, and every week we almost never paid for it, and we went to like a screening of a film that wasn't due for another month or two, and it was really cool.
Well,
It was a
that's
great
I've actually
experience.
that's the reason I didn't get a screener for Picard is because that's what I'm still doing now. I cover
Yeah.
mostly indie stuff that no one even ever hears about ever again, but that's what I like. So
Oh, good.
and so
Well, now you're on Starfleet, boy. So I'm assigning you your first role. You are officially the communications officer.
I wonder if anybody at the website asked for one because maybe there is one.
Yeah, well, we missed the boat on Picard here, but from now on, you're the official communications officer, the chief of communications, as a matter of fact, on Starfleet Boys.
I should start a YouTube channel and like a mask, so that I hide my identity. I don't get fired from the website. I just watch the screeners and spoil stuff like crazy.
I think that's what Doomcock already does, which we did not mean to endorse. Actually, both of the channel endorsements today were unsolicited, so we weren't asked to do that. So it just came from the bottom of our hearts. But yeah, I like that unsolicited.
I am ready to promote Emergency Awesome's channel at any time because, frankly, he inspired.
To check it out.
He inspired me to make my videos, and though, like, essentially, if you were to look at both channels now, they're quite different.
I wasn't your inspiration. You're telling me that I wasn't your inspiration to do a Star Trek channel?
You told me you had a dream about me 10 years ago.
Like, what was the deal? Is that what you say to everyone you like?
That's it. That's how I greet people. That's how I agree.
Oh, hi, I had a dream about you 10 years ago where you inspired me.
Officially, before we get into the episode discussion, I'd like to put out there to anyone who might be watching who has any part to play with the media department in CBS, if you thought I wasn't interested, I'm very interested. So, yeah.
The other interesting thing to note is that
I'll keep the secrets, I promise.
My friend, our mutual friend who's in the show, that we can now officially say it. Because
wait, can we say that yet? We can officially talk about that?
I didn't say his name. And so I won't go Patrick
We have a
Stewart
friend. I've been
like
keeping
that.
this secret. I've been such a good boy. We have a friend who is on Picard. I guess we're not going to say his name yet, but you'll know.
Brent Spiner.
So,
what?
So is this person like an extra or something?
Yeah, totally. I think it's like we don't want to.
This person is not one of the Romulans that's going to follow Picard around for the entire duration of the show.
No, we don't. No, I don't think it's anything that crazy.
One of the
Elrond. No, it's Elnor. I saw Starfleet Mom did that on something. She matched Elrond and Elnor, and it's true. The same.
I mean, they are space elves. That's the whole idea behind it.
No, but there's been comparisons.
I see nothing wrong with that.
There's been comparisons because they've got the same clothes on and what have you. And
yeah, that one picture I saw where it was like a meme that somebody made, I was like, yeah, he's like carrying a sword. Like,
but then
looks like he's in leather armor.
But then,
but to be fair,
Elrond,
the Romulan Star Empire was already spacefaring when Middle Earth, folks were fighting Sauron, so it's okay.
Elnor, the guy that we're getting in Picard, is kind of dressed and looks the same way as Elrond from like what they gave us in Lord of the Rings. But Elrond, visually, what they gave us in Lord of the Rings, actually looks like a Romulan that already existed in TNG. So
that's
it's kind of like
Romulan Ambassador
exactly.
Romulan Ambassador Nonclus from Star Trek.
And then L. Ron Hubbard.
There will never be
created Scientology, essentially.
There will never be a better time. How are you talking about Scientology?
Because that was created by L. Ron Hubbard.
Wait, what?
Instead of L. Ron, it's L. Ron Hubbard.
Come on,
man.
I got the joke now.
Come on.
All right, so we're here to talk about
this
awesome episode of Star Trek The Next Generation called The Pegasus. Who wants to do the episode summary today?
That's my Pegasus.
Now, Ruben, you're watching the episode as we're
It's playing
having
on
this
mute,
discussion.
here next to me.
When was the last time you saw it, though?
Oh, probably a couple weeks ago.
Okay. And Sean, you just saw it fresh?
I just watched it. Now.
Oh, really?
It ended the moment I said I'm ready to do the chat.
I also just watched it. So, Sean, Ruben, between
it's fresh in your memory.
I think you should start. One of you guys should start the summary. I think it should be Ruben because he's seen this episode like further away, so he has more time to be introspective about it. Yes. Or outro.
I'll do my best.
All right, let's see. I just sabotaged our summary.
Sabotage.
Sabotage.
That's how William Shatner says it. I love it.
Sabotage.
Oh.
That was my Beastie Boys impression.
Fantastic.
Very good.
So the episode starts off in the what is it? The little conference room they have there, where it's Captain Picard Day, where the kids.
Captain Picard
Well,
Day.
isn't it in Oh, I thought it was in 10 forward. No, but it's not.
No, it's in this little ready room, conference room. Not the. Is that the ready room?
Should I point out that the colors on your
No, it was in
mug
the
are
conference
wrong?
room.
Actually, it should be blue, not
What
purple.
do you mean? Oh, come on.
I'm pretty sure
It just looks that way on
the
screen.
APT or is it blue?
I'll make sure to send the feedback that they're and with the exact Pantone colored numbers, so they know. Sean. I'll make sure to take heat readings.
I think your mug is not
readings.
your mug is not canon, sir.
Ruben was doing such a good job. He was talking about Captain Picard Day being in the
It's
and it
probably
is
my-
the conference room, Ruben.
It was probably my best synopsis so far, but now it's ruined.
Wait, you haven't even done.
I apologize. It's all my fault.
My whole first sentence was
Sean,
amazing.
Sean,
I've ended my whole career.
This all started from me being surprised that you didn't get invited to the Star Trek Picard premiere. Was there even one in Canada? I don't think Canada got one. I'm sorry.
No, they didn't get one.
And that's where they
we'll
filmed
get a
the
premiere
bloody
for
show.
the most anticipated show of all, Section 31.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Anyways, carry on. Dismissed.
Did they just announce that there's 2 more shows coming?
Yeah.
Yeah, one is
It's
speculated.
probably
to
the
be-
one that they called City Alpha. So that's the Khan one, I'm assuming. And the other one's probably just Starfleet Academy because
You
they
think
already
they're
had
gonna-
people attached to that.
We're gonna.
Wait, it's going to be a show about Khan?
Well, they had Nick Meyer.
If it is,
come
I want
back
the guy who
originally.
plays Messiah to play Khan in
Well, they
Netflix's
had-
Messiah.
They wanted
That
to
would be
do
awesome.
a limited run about Khan, and then they copyrighted a Star Trek City Alpha project. So
This is SETI Alpha 5.
it's an entire show. The entire premise of the show will be explaining how Khan got the Starfleet badge necklace, and how he already knows who what's his name Chekhov
Oh,
is.
all this to fix that line?
Exactly.
That would be great.
The entire show just to explain how he
show
knows who
is just
Chekhov
to
is
explain-
and how he got the Starfleet insignia around his neck. That's it. That's what we're doing. It's
That's
the Rogue
amazing.
One. It's the Rogue One of Star Trek.
And how
It is.
and also how he found it's actually part of the chest piece he wears, the fake muscles. It's a piece of armor.
Ricardo
He's like the
Montalban said it's
Mandalorian.
real.
He's like the Mandalorian. It's the first piece he earned.
It's a Beskar chest. You guys, this has gone crazy, and I have no control. I'm like Admiral Pressman, and you guys are mutinying
Oh, yes.
on me right now. When he was Captain Pressman, I need someone to take a gun like Will did 12 years ago and stand by my side and help me keep this show
So
on
does this
track.
mean you're gonna leave the show and then we're just gonna blow up?
You'll get phase cloaked into the. Did we just do the summary through my funny joke? I think so.
Yeah, somebody's done. That's the
Does that count as a
That's the-
summary? Is this
Fill
what
in
the
the
show
gaps.
has become?
Audience, I believe in you. Make it so. Fill in the
This is the
gaps.
thing.
Pegasus.
Watch
This is
it,
a
no,
Imagination.
this is a classic Next Generation episode. If you're a fan of the Next Generation, you've seen it, you love it.
Yes.
And
And as you
if you haven't
pointed
seen
out-
it, then our recap will never do it justice. Go and watch it.
It's true.
It's true.
It's true. Just wait till you hear my rating on it.
Oh,
Ooh.
Tease.
oh my God! 15 bearded
I'm just gonna.
Rikers.
I'm gonna
out of-
remind
out of
you,
10.
and I'm gonna remind. It may not apply to this episode, but I just want to remind you now. This came up in my mind that Starfleet Boy does have an unrateable rating. Like you can opt out of rating an episode. It doesn't have to be this one, but you have that option. So if you and it can be backdated since you didn't do season 1 through most. So you can be like that episode Best of Both Worlds is unrateable. I don't remember what I gave an unrateable, but I know it's going to be ridiculous and everyone's going to disagree with me. I know that much.
So are we allowed like one episode? One episode is allowed to be just unrateable. It's the best.
It's the best. Yeah, to you, it's just beyond.
But you're allowed to do all of
and
the
it could be
episodes that way, or is it
no.
just
All
one?
any one of us can do it that way. But I don't remind people of it because I know.
Can we do it the other way?
Would,
Can we say an episode's so bad I reject its existence?
It's an insult to numbers.
We've done that, yeah.
It's an insult to numbers if I give it a number.
It's an insult to numbers. Numbers.
I don't
will be
think we went
offended.
all the way as
Maths
to.
would get mad.
Since
Maths
everyone
get
likes
triggered.
canon, since everyone likes to talk about canon, yes, you have the power to excommunicate an episode. So that
Oh, dear.
fits. You're excommunicating it from the canon.
Osaka is ready.
Oh, dear.
What? That's the one you would excommunicate?
No.
Musaka?
Actually, no,
I love
hate-
that.
No, I don't hate that episode like most people do.
Masks. All right. So we're
me,
back
it's
to
the one
parallels. But yes, you can complete your thought. It's okay. We're back. We're spoilers for everything. Cross
We
the
are spoilers
beams.
for everything.
We are.
Solo dies.
It's so hard. It's so hard to. That's why I have not too many. It's a niche. My show is very niche. It's like very few people can enjoy it without being mad, and I'm sorry in advance because we're really not trying to make anyone mad. Yeah, so we talked about the Admiral Pressman thing, and that was pretty interesting. But we get reveals about Riker 12 years ago when he was what was his rank? Ensign or a lieutenant? I think he said it was Ensign Riker.
Yeah, I think
Ensign.
it's Ensign. Yeah, he was fresh face because they called him Babyface Riker or whatever it was.
Babyface Riker, and
Hey,
Admiral
it's
Pressman.
Babyface.
Admiral Pressman hasn't seen Commander Riker in 12 years because he was so ashamed of what happened on their final mission together aboard the Pegasus that he just kind of like hid that part of his life away and then moved on, and then it actually changed him as well, according to a conversation that Picard and Admiral Pressman are having. Picard says that the reason he chose Commander Riker among all the other applicants was because there was an away mission in which he didn't let his captain beam down. We've known this. I think that was like something that it was brought up since season 1, and also we remember that Riker was always like, oh, I'll go down, Captain, or you can't go down. He's very like antagonistic with Picard when it came to safety in the earlier seasons.
That's
and
kind of the
then
rule
Pressman's
as well,
like,
isn't it?
what's that?
Well, that's kind of the rule. That's kind of the Starfleet law, isn't it? Like the captain doesn't go down to the planet surface and do all of the shenanigans and put his life in danger.
Unclear though.
The
Unclear
commanding
because Kirk
them.
and Pike are like the first to go in.
But they
fighting
they live in a
and,
time of madness. They live in a time of
True.
you know what I mean?
It's really a great way to describe that era. It's so true. I can't. I know that is actually really appropriate. I get it.
Lawless
but
era
at the same-
Starfleet.
I mean, they always describe it as like the cowboy
But in
diplomacy
this-
era, and it kind of is. So they can do whatever the hell they want.
But in this scene, it's pretty much established. I guess you're right, but it's also established that like the difference is that Picard enjoyed being questioned, enjoyed his authority being questioned, whereas Pressman thought that was odd because he's like, a captain shouldn't
Right. Pressman's an
ever
authoritarian.
be questioned. Right, he's an authoritarian type. Yeah, how many of those do we know? Interesting.
I know they want to make him seem like he's the antagonist here. He's the bad guy, but.
Well, and he
That-
just
that
also
in
completes a
itself-
long list of admirals that
Oh,
are
yeah,
like
well, it's
fucked
a
up
cliche, isn't it?
in Starfleet. Like he's the
But-
worst, I think.
That thought in itself, the whole thing that he doesn't like to be questioned, because it does waste kind of like precious time and maybe resources and stuff like that in an emergency situation. I can kind of understand where he's coming from. I mean, I get
And
the
this
sentiment.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a case by case basis
you're-
kind of thing.
This relies heavily on, and I forget the name of the actor who plays Pressman, but he really is embodying what I call sympathy for the devil.
That's Terry
whereas
O'Quinn.
I actually, what is it?
Terry O'Quinn from Lost.
Terry O'Quinn, amazing performance in my view because
Oh, yes.
I didn't think you were a straight cut villain like your character Admiral Pressman. I actually understood his perspective just as much as, and it's gray at the end. I do agree that he's like out of line, and like
breaking
everything
the law.
Picard did, I like breaking the law, and everything Picard did, I salute 100%, and I'm glad it came to light, because I thought, yeah, this could lead to really fucked up consequences for the Federation and Starfleet. But ultimately, there are people like that, and they're doing what they do in the same interest, which is to protect the thing that they hold dear, which is this, this Federation, so to speak. So, but the thing is that Admiral Pressman broke the law to do it, which is
that's the thing. Now that I think about it, so
thing,
did he actually break the law in the sense that the Federation signs this thing, right? But then it's
Treaty of Algeron,
it's basically Starfleet intelligence. So the highest level of Starfleet are kind of setting in motion all of this plan. He's just the guy he's the terrain man. He's the guy that's there doing all of the kind of the work. But he's under the orders of other people that are higher up. Is he the traitor in that sense? Is he the one that's breaking the law? Or is he just part of the conspiracy? Or
ultimately, it just boils down to this: he was willing to go down for his faction's cause. Like, this is like an important part of a federation or a free society, is that there has to be room for all contingencies, right? So like, that's why Section 31 exists. It's a secret organization, and now we know about these Rangers that are also around. So it's cool that there's all this stuff happening in the background, and like, this episode hints at like those kinds of machinations, but who knows if I think he's going to be court-martialed, just like they said in the episode. He's going to be ousted from Starfleet, and he may show up in Star Trek Picard as a villain, or like a rogue or an outlaw or something. He may have joined the Maquis after this. Who knows? Like, but he's definitely out of favor. I like the line at the end where Picard's like, "You're going to need all your friends, you bitch."
Well, it's not quite that, is it? But
isn't that what he says?
Not quite.
He wasn't like,
I'm not sure.
Word for word.
You shithead. You're going to need all those friends, you shithead.
The situation has turned to shite, number one.
Shite.
Number one, go take number two on his head.
Oh my god.
Hot damn.
Good grief. Sorry, we had to have one moment.
Hashtag Ruben ruined Star Trek.
Juvenile comedy, and it was brought by me. What's that?
Not my Starfleet boy. Not my podcast.
Wow. Also, the technology is pretty cool in this episode.
Everything is so cool. All of it. Everything. The episode is so cool. The technology is cool. The technobabble is cool. Is this a perfect
episode?
The dialogue is just perfect. The Romulan commander is genius. The dialogue is so well written.
Yes, it's true.
This is the definition of good television.
This is so good that our normal discussion is turning into a review as if we saw it for the first time. It's that good. Go see this today. Don't wait.
I don't mean to be a party pooper, but when people come out of Star Trek Picard episode 1 and they say it is the best episode of Star Trek I've ever seen, I'm very skeptical because there's a lot of good goddamn Star Trek episodes out there, and the hype you're riding on.
I'm preparing you right now. That's gonna be me. 100%.
I know that you're gonna rate every episode at 27.
I already feel like the little clip, the 1 minute clip. You don't understand. I was in such a state of grace. Is the only way I can describe it. It was like a holy. It was like a religious experience. I'm sorry I talked over you, but it was like a religious experience. Just that 1 minute clip was like pure. I thought I died, and I went to heaven, and I didn't know what to do. It was like eating sushi for the first time. It's the best thing in the world in that moment.
Compare watching Star Trek Picard to eating sushi.
Is that you from
to going to heaven?
An Otoro belly, the tuna belly is the fattiest, and it melts in your mouth. And I ate that the first time I ate sushi. It was wonderful. And then I ate really crappy sushi after that. But the first time was very good.
Yeah, the distance between awful sushi and amazing sushi is way further than like the distance from a terrible burger and a good burger, if you know what I mean. You will be much more disappointed by crap sushi than you will by anyway.
And then you eat it, but you eat it anyways.
Moving on, the comedy is perfect in this episode. You get the Riker imitation of Picard.
In the beginning
I don't know.
scene, that was wonderful.
Beverly, even better.
He tries to steal the little.
He tries to go away with the Riker. What are you doing?
He's
with
just gonna
Picard
sit it, and Picard saves the day because he doesn't want the bridge crew to see it. I bet you would have just plopped it on the chair and sat in his own chair. Could you imagine?
Sits it there.
No,
But then he
Riker
does
walks
imitations of his voice on the bridge. No,
That's
Mr.
Riker
Walt.
There's a
walks
short
out-
trek.
Riker walks out
Let's
with
just
the bridge
make that
and
into
like,
a
everybody.
trick.
Picard's been turned into a little doll by some energy
Captain on the bridge.
being. You gotta believe it. I mean, he was turned
That's
into
like a
kid.
good episode. That's a totally real episode.
That is
That's like an
absolutely
episode that never was.
That is absolutely a TNG season 8 tweet from Mike McMahon.
There you go. Did we steal that or did we make this up today? I don't know.
I don't know. We should send it to
I
him.
never saw a tweet about it. The Admiral, there's a lot of Admiral action. There's a lot of Admirals mentioned in this episode, and in that scene I like that part where Admiral Blackwell calls, and she's like, after she gets the status of the ship and
So
everything, and then
unimpressed.
afterwards she's like, Captain Picard Day, and he's like, I'm a role model.
Starfleet out.
I like how our synopsis of this episode has so far gone through Captain Picard Day. It's been nothing but Captain Picard Day, and
Because it's actually a great part of the episode. I mean, it actually has
adorable.
spawned. Speaking of Captain Picard Day, it spawned like a movement in the Star Trek community, where everyone celebrates on Captain Picard Day. I forget what the actual day is. What is it, April 4th? It's the day before your birthday, Sean, isn't it? What?
No, you're talking about April 5th, which is First Contact Day.
Oh, First Contact Day. I got confused. What
But
day
I-
is Captain Picard Day?
I don't know. I think-
Does anyone know?
I don't know. Do
Oh,
people
well, anyways,
celebrate
people
Captain
celebrate
Picard
it. And we're part of a cool project. I won't say anymore, but there's a Captain Picard thing going on. And there's like just so many things. There's like so many things that celebrate Picard, and he is a role model. At the end of the day, like that's
He truly
actually
is.
really funny that like that scene, because now I look back and I'm like, oh yeah, but you were my role model, like my fictional character role model for life. Like that's how I tried to model my whole life. I failed. I went into some Kirk directions. I may have gone into some Pike directions. I don't know. Voyager, like Cisco. I went in all kinds of directions, but the core way I conduct myself is based on Captain Picard. It's crazy. He's my role model, and now I'm so obsessed with him.
Well, he's a good role model, to be honest. If you want a role model, then Captain Picard's a good role model.
he's definitely on the better side of role models.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
like Pressman, maybe not
He-
so much.
He holds true. I think all of the captains in Star Trek actually live up to that.
I want to
and
see
for some, to some degree, to someone.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, like Sean's role model would be Admiral Janeway.
It
Captain Janeway.
Yeah, it would be probably Janeway more than Picard. But I mean, the funny thing is, I did watch both shows, and so I was influenced by both captains greatly growing up. Is that for some reason, as a child, Voyager appealed to me more. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's like TNG is very grown up as a show, and so maybe Voyager's just more appealing to the younger audience. Maybe, I don't know.
Voyager does something that I think is really something that I don't think about or give credit to it often for, but now that I'm watching it, I'm realizing by being in the Delta Quadrant, it was a great way to introduce Star Trek to a whole new generation who didn't know anything maybe about the previous Star Treks, because it was self-contained in a bubble of its own. And so then whenever there were references made, your generation, specifically Sean, I guess maybe you guys were starting to see this, but like the generation growing up now, if there's a reference on Voyager, you can just click to the video of the episode that they reference and watch it like immediately after. That kind of like access has never existed before, but Voyager is a great starting point. TOS is an awesome starting point, but not a lot of people today can tolerate the
I actually
the
believe
colors.
that Voyager would be the best starting point for Star Trek. And it is probably because
I disagree.
think
I think it's TNG, and that's why we chose this discussion with TNG. But I think that Voyager
I would actually go with Voyager too.
The thing
Yeah,
is,
it's
I
a
think
great-
that
because Voyager starts off from episode 1, it already knows what it needs to do, whereas TNG, that season 1, is hard for
That's
a lot
true.
of people to
it
get
doesn't
to.
know what it is.
Yeah, they're
a good
trying
point.
to. I mean, the characters don't know who they are. They're changing from episode. I mean, it's not drastic, but like
This is so appropriate because it's the
Yeah.
25th anniversary of Star Trek Voyager. It started yesterday, and so
I
The
think
thing is,
so.
I've always taken Voyager as, to me, Voyager is it's the modern version, the most successful modern version of the original series. It really is just going out there, visiting, like exploring space. You're completely lost. You're alone.
The wild,
There's,
yeah, back to
there's
that
no one
Wild
really to
West.
help you. There's anomalies going on the ship. There's anomalies going on in the space. They sometimes go down to planets. They see a lot more planet surfaces than like TNG does. I don't know. It was anyway. It's just because I
Yeah,
love
I
the
just
show.
think like it had the.
It does have issues,
It took the
of course.
best of TNG and the best of Deep Space Nine, and had a great budget.
And it
great
was at
actors.
this strange
So it was
point.
just like
It was at this strange point also where it could take ideas that were executed in the original series or TNG and kind of make them better.
yeah.
But
yeah.
then see, they did that for so long that in Enterprise, all of these ideas don't seem executed better; they just seem rehashed. So Enterprise was kind of like on the back end of that.
you only get to rehash. You only get to rehash once. Speaking of, we might not come to an agreement of whether it does it better, but Star Trek Discovery uses information from the previous episode, which I talked to PJ about, which is parallels where Worf is bouncing around through these quantum realities, right? In Discovery, the way that they realize that they're not in their correct universe and that they
the
realize they're
quantum
in this
signature.
other universe is they use they're able to determine that the quantum signature of the wreckage of the vessel that was there didn't match their quantum signature, and that idea was presented beautifully in Parallels, and so they just were like, oh, so that's an example of plucking from an older series. And then in this episode, I think this episode kind of, to relate to Discovery even further, spoilers for Discovery, the Discovery is classified, its mission is classified, all these things, and I love this one scene. There's a couple scenes too in this ship. Picard's like horrified that a ship could even have a mutiny. It's like it's unheard of, right? And it's maintained because it was classified. The mutiny, all those events were classified. The other thing is we learn about things being classified in this episode and how hard it is to get that information. Like Picard had to pull some strings to find out that like the crew had even mutinied in the first place. So we know that like just forgetting Section 31, just Starfleet intelligence is hardcore. Like they have a lock on a lot of information. So it puts more feasibility, I think, into the events of Discovery with all the classifying of the ship and everything. And then on top of that, here we have an experimental system, the phase cloak, that is also classified, and they were working on it as a tactical advantage, which is exactly what the Glenn and the Discovery were assigned to do with the mycelial drive. So I just see all these connections, and I love it because I think it's like that. I think this is proof, and I'm wrong too, because I was the first person to be like, Star Trek Discovery doesn't know what it's doing, but it is trying really hard to make these connections. And now that I'm rewatching TNG and I see these references, because I really tune into all the technical mumbo jumbo, like to me it's like, oh, I'm really interested in all that, and it all starts connecting, and it's really nice. the what is it called, the techno babble.
I would like to say for the record though that deep down in my heart I believe that you made these you as a fan and we as fans make these connections to like, oh, how it's classified and what have you. But the people behind Discovery, when they classify all the missions of the Discovery and what have you, they don't think further than the word classify. They're like, oh, we'll just make it classified so that no one knew about it. But they don't actually connect it. No one went and watched the Pegasus specifically and kind of...
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I disagree with that, but I think that if they are doing it, they're hella lucky because... as I'm watching TNG, there's a lot of like things that I perceive as like direct.
You're bound to get things right,
and I know that could be my own
since
perception.
53 years, right?
I agree with that.
Franchise has done so many things that you're bound to say the same thing at some point.
I don't know who's on the Discovery team, but they might have a continuity guy who keeps track of those sort of things.
You probably get shut down quite a lot, actually.
Oh yeah, for sure, because they...
Nah, don't worry about it.
They need to write the show. I don't know about Discovery personally, but a lot of shows will do that. Well, they'll have one guy who really knows the history of the show, either a writer or a producer or something like that, who kind of can chime in with that kind of stuff.
And a social commentary, if Starfleet Intelligence had not classified the Discovery mission, then when the Enterprise goes into the cavern going deep into this asteroid, they would have known that the Discovery had done it on the Klingon homeworld in their season 1 finale, and would have had like a procedural guidance as to how to enter a deep hole.
And I want to say that the whole idea of the phase cloak was lifted from my high school fan fiction, Starfleet in the 25th century, where the USS Nova had a phase cloak.
You wrote a story?
I wrote a story before Deep Space Nine had even come out, where a ship could phase and cloak. And this is before there was even an episode about phasing. I stole the idea from Kitty Pryde in the X-Men. I was like, hey, what if a ship could turn invisible and do what Kitty Pryde does? And so I wrote a story, and the other funny part of that story was it was a ship created by a secret Starfleet organization called the Obsidian Order, which was later used in Deep Space Nine.
Wait, did you ever put your stuff on BBSs?
No. I still have it, though.
Oh, because I was going to say, it's entirely possible, because at the time that Ruben's talking about, like, long-ass time ago, when we were in high school, yeah, the internet was just nascent and available to the public at large, and most people were interacting. Actually, if you were on the Star Trek BBSs, you were definitely interacting with the writers of TNG and the showrunners, and even of Doctor Who. Like, it was a very small community, and I took it for granted because I never had anything that I consciously contributed to those. But it could, ideas were hashed in that nebula, in that beautiful little stellar farm there of all kinds. It was really neat, which you can trace back to the BBS, the BB-8. Well, so yeah, I vaguely actually remember your story because I used to read them all, and I would try to draw comic interpretations. Remember?
I still have your drawings of all the different ship designs, and you coming up with
find those.
A ship design with the nacelles that would move up and down before Voyager ever came out.
I know I did, yeah, but so did probably a million other.
It just goes to show how similar.
It's a natural idea.
It goes to show how like fan minds work. Like, as fans, you were doing these things, and the people working on these shows were fans as well, so they would come up with the same things. Yeah. I think that Marvel actually created, because the Black Order that we see, the Children of Thanos, the Black Order that we see in the MCU, I think originally when they were created, they were called the Obsidian Order, if I'm not mistaken. And but that was in the comic books, and when the movie came out, they called them the Black Order, and they renamed one of them Obsidian or whatever, and I was like, did they do that because of Deep Space Nine and Star Trek now? Maybe not.
Who knows? I think things just kind of like float around, like ideas just kind of float around. There's that degree of, we have so much information. Just think of like in your own lifetime, how much of just random stuff you've been exposed to that you don't even know, and it comes out in your work, in your writing or your fiction or whatever.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just safe to say that, like, to a degree, that's why, like, I think, not to pontificate too long on this, but like the idea of the tardigrade and how like it's so closely matched to this video game, and there was this whole controversy, and I lost interest because it's just not something that I get really mired in all the legal minutia. Like, to me, it's just like, oh, I don't understand any of that. I'm sorry, I gotta check out.
Legal is very confusing.
Yeah, it's very confusing because
it could be some weird thing in Star Trek that they have a trademark on that Obsidian Order name.
Or tardigrade or whatever.
Like they own it for movies or something, and so Marvel couldn't use it.
But my point is that, like, at the end of every day, like, to a degree, you are just stealing from the original story, the very far away first story in the cave. Like, I bet one day we go to the caves in France and we'll see like oh my god, that looks like the Enterprise D. Of course, this is where it all came from. But
I've seen paintings in caves in France. They ain't no Enterprise D. I'm telling you that. But
this ancient writing says Captain
KFC.
Picard Day. They thought of it first.
So Sean, going further in the perfection of this episode, was there any critique at all from you guys about this episode?
I don't know. I really don't know, because like every aspect that I kind of try and think about, I mean, it's even directed by LeVar Burton, which does a fantastic job.
Oh, I totally forgot to mention that. Yeah, it's true. Oh my god.
I don't know. The characters are great. What? Usually there's like one element that you don't really like. As I was saying, I'm not a fan of Beverly Crusher, and I tend to find most of her appearances kind of useless. And now and then she has like an episode I'm like, oh, this isn't bad. She's like the goddess of Starfleet Boy, and you're speaking openly. I slander her every time.
It's like terrible. But anyways, I know you were going to say something nice.
Just recite the opening of the original series 10 times, and then you'll be.
Yeah, there you go. That's your punishment. Thank you.
That's your punishment.
Communications, Chief of Communications. Thank you. That's exactly what.
Did I tell you my story about the guy who has a sneaking suspicion that I'm an atheist? And so I told him I'm a federationalist, and I follow the teachings of Starfleet.
He was froze.
Like, "What?"
Starfleet didn't like that. It classified whatever you said for.
Yeah, I got cut off. I was like, "Is it me?"
That's what I'm gonna start calling it when those glitches happen. Oh, Starfleet just classified that. We'll have to wait. What were you? Both of you were having a point. I think Sean was going to compliment.
I was going to compliment Beverly Crusher. In this episode, she has like one scene essentially in this episode where she heals Riker or whatever, and I think that
cool effect, by the way.
It is. It's a cool, like, everything in sickbay is pretty cool. It's I don't know, but I like what she says to Riker. And she says, "Oh, you'll get better next time. Don't worry about it." But like, you know that for him, it's much deeper. He's talking about the actions of the past,
it's parallel,
not necessarily
this
fight. But
layered dialogue.
But she does give this good advice in a sense, right? I don't know.
No, she totally does.
And then there's the ship that's stuck in the rock. It's fucking awesome. Imagine how terrifying it would be to realize that all of a sudden you're stuck inside an asteroid.
It's just the worst.
I think about it all the time, like when Riker's like, or Picard.
You think about it all the time.
Hey, I'm gonna go to Risa for a week. It's a 20-hour shuttle ride by myself in a tiny little shuttle in the vastness of space, and you're just like.
No, but you gotta think back. You gotta think, oh, everyone in Discovery did that all the time, so it's fine. Well, actually, they all get kidnapped in Discovery, don't they? Every time there's a shuttle going somewhere, they get hijacked by some sort of Klingon.
They do get hijacked. It's true. There's hijack proofness in Star Trek: The Next Generation. It's hijack deterrence countermeasures. But the other thing is transporting itself is
it's all fixed.
Transporting itself freaks me out, and I think I know why Dr. McCoy doesn't like it, because you're actually atomizing a version of yourself. So that person died. That version of you died or was killed, and then you're re-energizing that pattern and creating a new version of yourself every time. It's like
Barkley.
You're reborn.
You're reborn. It's like really scary.
You're going through like a whole process of death and being reborn every time you transport.
Every time you transport. And what if something just doesn't come back quite in the right place? What if like your kidney just moves just a little bit? You know, like I don't know. It's scary.
And what if like between transports, like when you get transported, you go to either heaven or hell, depending on that version of your life up to that point. And so for the brief second, you're just seeing whatever you're going to see in the afterlife. And then you're brought back to life and you're like... you're just seeing fire and demons. Yeah, Barkley used to see the
exactly what happened to Barkley.
Beaming alone doesn't scare me. It's kind of like this, they say beaming, like two people to beam up and a piece of equipment or whatever. I'd be afraid that piece of equipment gets merged with you somehow. That's like, you know, or like you get beamed with your clothes on, and then all of a sudden you arrive and the clothes have like melded with your skin or something. That would be, that would be horrible.
all those things can
That's
happen.
why they never
Harry
take off
Potter
their
has
uniforms.
It's
It's stuck to them after all the
they're
transports.
they're part of the.
This that Picard does, he's trying to take it off.
Yes. He's trying to save himself.
Going back to Picard for a second, I totally kind of dress like that already in my private life, and now I just have to enhance a few things to like dress like Picard. Now I know how I'm going to dress in my old age. From now on, I consider myself in my old age, so I'm totally going to dress like Picard.
Really, you consider yourself in your old age from now on?
I hope no one's offended by this statement that I'm about to make. It's a common joke in the gay community. I can't believe I had to make these disclaimers. But anyways, in the gay community, Sean, you are already at retirement age at 40, meaning like you've lost your edge, like your prime is way past.
Your sex appeal?
Gays peak in all that stuff. Gays peak in their 20s. Now, I disagree because, you know, you become a daddy or whatever, and then there's a whole
You
new
have a different
universe
appeal.
that opens up. You have a different appeal, exactly. You age into a new
Like a
appeal.
bear.
I'm not saying that I'm giving off daddy vibes with this, you know, get up here or anything like that, but not consciously anyways. But yeah, I want to dress like Picard.
So
That was the
I'm
point.
subconsciously homosexual because I feel the same way. My running joke is that every time I talk to someone and they're like 27, I'm like, well, you're pretty old already. I find
Wow.
like I'm 28, 27, I don't know, 27 I think. I find it pretty damn old. I find myself like 27 years is a long time. So
Well,
yes, I
the
agree.
way-
Imagine when you
the
get to
way I
40,
was-
you're gonna feel like you're retired.
When you're in your
Exactly.
40s, that must feel like 3 eternities.
The way I always think
I'm
about
ready
it
to
is
go to
that,
Dagobah.
The universe is 15 billion years old, so you're never old.
Well, that's
true.
one way
a
of
really
putting
good-
it, but when you can't
nice to
walk,
bring
you'll
it back
have
there,
another.
Neil deGrasse Rubin.
Next on Star Talks.
Wait, Neil
Star
deGrasse
Talks.
Martian. That's the correct. That's the correct title for you. You're Neil deGrasse Martian. All right, so now you know some things that I'm gonna get yelled at from the gay community about saying.
No, you're not.
Don't reveal our
fine.
secrets, bitch.
Wow. Very nicely done, Ruben. That's exactly the kind of feedback I'll get. Exactly.
That's the feedback. You received that as an email?
It's just a picture.
For the good of the Federation, I took a note on that. So, speculation for the good of the Federation. What is for the good of the Federation? Like, in your mind, like, what do you think should the Federation always keep sight of? And do you think people who are saying they're worried about the Federation declining in Star Trek Picard, I see it here even. Like, I've seen it in Star Trek The Next Generation throughout TNG. There's always been a battle against these admirals or whatever higher up people whose agenda seems to be just a little bit off, or even a lot off. I mean, like, even a whole movie, like, this seems to be like such a reoccurring theme that I don't think it's an accident. That even in Star Trek Insurrection, the fucking ridiculous admiral who, you know, granted, I want to live forever too, but I wouldn't destroy like an entire ecosystem just so that I could extend my life.
It's the humans. You've noticed this.
Well, it's
Well, yeah, and it's always the
it's
always
battle,
humans,
it's a
it's
battle
true.
between military, science, intellectualism, and
But
politics.
there's no corrupt or fucked up Andorian admirals or Tallarite admirals or Vulcan
Well, that's
admirals.
just-
It's all humans.
that's just
The
'cause,
humans
yeah.
are useless, worthless.
We don't
pricks.
really get Andorians ever on TNG, which is disappointing.
Right.
Well,
Because
we get like once.
once, and
Twice.
maybe in the background, I think there might
Yeah,
have been
that's
like.
it.
And this
an
is one of
Andorian
the
character
episodes
or
that
whatever.
mentions the warp speed limit.
It does mention the warp speed limit.
That episode is coming, isn't it?
Where they're allowed
No,
to break it.
we did it.
Oh, you've done it. You've done it.
We did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we've done it already.
Let's not go too
Wow,
fast.
Sean, you're
who gives a shit?
you're lost in space there. You're totally. By the way, thanks for helping me with these because Star Trek Picard's coming, and I'm like itching to get as close to the end as possible.
In my full rewatch of all of Star Trek and the first watch of all of Star Trek of my wife, in order of release, all right, we now only have 2 episodes of Enterprise to watch and Nemesis before Picard comes out, and we'll be able to do that. And I'm bloody impressed because we watched from the original series to these 2 episodes of Enterprise, and then Nemesis, and then we'll be able to watch the first episode of Picard, and we'll be. That's it.
That means you're completionists?
Pretty much, yeah. I think she hasn't watched the animated series, which I'm disappointed because I find it fantastic. But whatever. She's not too hot on animation anyway, so.
Ruben, you're complete, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen some of Enterprise. I think I've missed a season or 2, and I haven't watched Discovery. Except for the one episode.
I'm not complete either. That's why you have so much authority on this show, Sean. You have knowledge that you've seen it all.
Knowledge.
You have knowledge that some of us knowledge.
Knowledge is power.
It's been a while since I've watched the animated series. I gotta watch it again. It's been a while.
It's great. I love the animated series. Kirk is a jerk.
But TNG, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, I watch.
They play practical jokes on each other, and there's this episode where like Kirk has a T-shirt on, like his uniform. It says "Kirk is a jerk" on the back of the uniform, and I love it.
I do like that too. I think we covered everything that's on my notes. Let me see. I'm looking through here.
It was a detail.
The Treaty of Algernon. So do you guys know? Was there ever? Do you know if there was a reference? I haven't looked it up on Memory Alpha, but this is the first time we hear about the Treaty of Algernon, right? It was 60 years ago, so it was signed after Star Trek 6. So it was signed after, I think, because that was like 80 years ago or something like that.
It's the first time they talk about it. The Pegasus, and then they mention it, of course, in Enterprise later on because they do a Pegasus tie-in episode. They talk about it in Deep Space Nine as well.
Do you guys think it's a stupid treaty? Like, do you think Federation ships should be allowed to cloak?
I don't remember what. Do we know what the? I don't remember what the circumstances for the treaty were.
I don't.
We can look it up, but you don't care.
No, I don't care about any kind of circumstance. I think that in the same way, there are treaties on Earth today about warfare and about what kind of weaponry you can use. I think there are certain things that should just be like considered morally wrong, and I think that it's a good thing that the Federation took a stand and said we're not going to use cloaking technology. First of all, because if everyone's cloaked, then it's going to be a hell of a mess out there. Once there are too many ships in whatever system and
the idea of cloaking is just bad. You think like being secretive and hidden and cloaked,
but then I think that's they're pretty hypocritical because we've seen them using cloaking technology to do surveillance on pre-warp civilizations.
The duck blind, yes.
So, right. Is there a certain line that defines you can use cloaking technology for scientific purposes or kind of like surveillance, but not in like a military capacity? It's surveillance, but for documentation of pre-warp species or whatever. I don't know what kind of rules they have, but I feel like it's a logical thing. You don't want everyone cloaked.
It goes out the window in the anti-time future that Q presents to Picard as a possible future because the Enterprise with the supergun decloaks and knocks out the Klingon ships that were attacking the.
But I mean, even the Defiant cloaks.
Oh, duh. That's right. But it can only cloak when it goes into the... and actually, that's a reference to the Treaty of Algernon. So it can only cloak it's a cloak that is installed by it's a mutual.
See, it's a question.
It's like a joint thing with the Romulans, and they can only use it in the Gamma Quadrant. That's.
I feel like
stipulation.
Starfleet didn't want to admit that they have because I'm sure Starfleet have developed and know how to use cloaking technology. They have cloaking technology, but they just didn't want to admit it.
Well,
so
they use it on things like the duck blind. So yeah, they do. They absolutely.
So
have
they're like,
it.
we'll call the Romulans and get them to install it on the ship, but you could have put your own in. You just they want to save face and pretend that they don't.
Yeah, I think that's a really safe. But even procedurally, that's just the right thing to do diplomatically if you're gonna honor the Treaty of Valgeron.
I know.
Yeah, which was basically a
treaties.
question of the greater good, right? Because the treaty was signed. I'm reading here a memory awful. 160 years after the Romulan Earth War, and so that was one of the stipulations for peace. Was you can't make cloaking technology. So
It's crazy that it isn't like a mutual thing that the Romulans are still allowed to use cloaking technology.
Right. It's not like nukes, like hey, we don't use them, you don't use them either. But
Yeah, it's like
apparently-
we're not going to use mustard gas. You ain't going to use mustard gas. No one uses
Right.
it. It's like we can use cloaking technology, but not you. That's all right.
It seems that if the conditions are right, Romulans can be parked right outside of Earth, and no one would even know it. And they could be watching our TV shows and downloading.
Okay,
all
so
of
that
it.
is a
Yeah, it's
huge thing, right?
maybe watching
They've got
Earth
this
is their
huge,
TV show.
They've got this huge neutral zone thing where no one crosses the neutral zone. How the hell do you know if a Romulan ship has crossed the neutral zone or not? They're bloody cloaked.
Supposedly there's a tachyon net, but does that mean it goes how high?
I mean, it's gotta-
how big is the tachyon net? Because you could just fly under or over a tachyon net, I would imagine, right?
Well, no, but remember, space
is kind
all the ships are trapped on a 2D plane in Star Trek.
So wibbly wobbly.
I want to go down, but I can't.
It feels like that sometimes, but it's not really like that. So it is weird. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
That
Sean.
is
It's
the
how do you
one thing that
enforce,
Discovery successfully does better than any other Star Trek show. It shows that the ships are not all stuck on this 2D plane. You have ships sitting
really
in
good
every
job.
kind of position, and they fly everywhere, and it's mayhem, and I like that.
It's both a critique and a praise.
No, it's not.
No.
It's because
No,
they
it's not.
film
No.
it shit. But what they show you is good.
I know what you're saying
essence
because The
of what they're
Expanse does
showing
the
you.
same thing, but it's filmed beautifully.
Exactly.
You're
The
absolutely right.
Expanse does the same
I know.
thing better.
Yeah.
The
what you're
Expanse
saying.
does TV better than any of the other TV that you're currently watching.
Until Star Trek Picard. Maybe it's gonna
Maybe.
it's gonna
Maybe.
totally squash every other TV show. Who knows?
Better Call
Who
Saul
knows?
season 5 is coming, so that
Every episode is going to end in a blinding, beautiful light because it's just so perfect.
All right, so I think we can rate this episode if you guys are ready for the ratings.
I think the audience
So-
got the gist of what happens in the episode, right?
Yeah,
I'm
I think
sure-
we
I'm sure
covered
they
it.
have
We
a-
actually covered a lot. We've been talking for about about a minute more than an hour. We covered everything, and we
minute
went
more than
further.
an
We went on all our tangents as well. I mean, unless there's something you think I missed. Did you not? Did you get something out? Is there
do
something
you,
you
do you want
to
another? Do you want another tangent, or do you want an actual note?
a tangent or a note? A note would be good.
Picard chooses the winner and the winner for the Captain Picard Day contest, and Riker describes it as the orange one with the lumpy skin. So is that Trump?
Well,
Star Trek predicted it.
yes. The answer is yes. Star Trek is like what's that Notre Dame thing? What are his chronicles called?
The Chronicles of Riddick?
No.
Yes, there we go.
Starring
Boom.
Nostradamus.
Starring Nostradamus Diesel.
Played by Brent Spiner. Boom boom.
Oh my god.
There we go. Brent Spiner.
I don't know if you guys
should
actually. I
totally
do have
play
a note.
Nostradamus.
The moment
Yes.
Captain, Admiral, what is it, Pressman?
Yes.
Okay. The
Eric
moment
Pressman.
he arrives on the ship, I feel like Picard hates him already. Because
I thought he tried
him
to-
that look, right? Pressman's talking to Riker, and Picard seems either jealous or I don't know. He's got this thing. He's got this vibe in his eyes where he's like, I don't like this dude. I don't like what he's doing here. It felt very.
By the way, I'm gonna insert that. That's another perfect thing about this episode because it kind of beautifully plays out throughout the episode. Riker, I think Picard's reacting, and he's like a good Captain Wood, an investigator, Dixon Hill, because of the awkward sort of interaction that Riker has with Press. I mean, Riker looks like completely like he does. You know, he's like, oh god, it's Admiral Pressman. Like, that's, oh my god, you know, like he's totally like this dude. And even Pressman makes some sort of comment like, oh, it's good to see you again, Will. And then
that's exactly him. That's exactly it. That was like, perfect portrayal.
Dead on.
But
yeah, sure you are.
But anyways,
like you saw a ghost.
But Picard totally, he, you know, everything's kind of off, right? Picard, Pressman's like keeping everything secret. He's totally like honed in on Will. This reminds me a lot about the O'Brien episode with that other captain who was rogue. How like
that's
they
a
had
fantastic
like a really
episode as well.
Bond, yeah, it's a fantastic episode. And there's a similar thing going on here where Picard feels left out, but he's always trying to get in. Like he has that dinner or that little, you know, aperitif with Pressman where they talk about how, you know, Riker was
they
like,
hate each other so much in that scene.
They had like they go back and forth, and then later after they make the decision to ionize the asteroid and they have like 8 hours to kill, which I think is hilarious. Picard's like, would you like to go for a late night dinner? And he's like, no, I think I'm gonna turn in. And you would think, you know, it's so out of protocol, and I think these are the things that Picard notices, like if you have to go to bed, then you walk out with the captain, but Pressman stays behind to liaise with Will, and it also continues to trigger. So I think Picard tries his best to, like, you know, kind of understand him and earn his trust, but then by that scene he's just like, oh, this guy's up to something, I hate him. So I love that happens throughout the show, and it's just like a thing that happens all through performance. It's like really brilliant.
Yeah, no,
we
and
should
I
really take this up with.
I love the dynamic between Will and Picard too, where they,
yep,
you know, Picard's like, what the hell? Like, we trust each other for 7 years now, and you're not going to tell me what.
And now you're so you're saying that he's an admiral. That whole scene is great too because
that's so great.
He's like, oh, he's like,
pick it up with Admiral Pressman. I'm taking this up with you, Will.
It's so good. And then he like gives him he's like, well, you know what? I trust you, but if you impugn that trust at all, then I'll have to reconsider the command structure on the Enterprise.
Oh, that's so good.
Like,
I know.
Right,
I will have to reevaluate the chain of command on this ship.
Yeah,
I love it.
Great stuff. He was the full Picard in this episode.
Oh, we got the full.
I like to say that we got the full Picard, we got the full Riker. Everyone gave their full performance because even Data's great. Like with his, Data's like kind of like observing in his usual fashion, like what's going on. He makes these like
the problem solving is genius in this episode as well. Like
it is really
the
good.
whole thing that we need to do, like we need to find a way to hide that the ship, that the Pegasus is in this asteroid, and all the problem solving is.
I liked also. I don't know if you saw the resemblance, but the Romulan looks like people. a young James Earl Jones. Like I wish actually James Earl Jones could have played this character because he like reminded me a lot about James Earl Jones, which is kind of interesting. I like that part about it too. But the Romulan commander was cool, and it's great that we don't just see
Michael
Tomahawk
Mack
all the
he's
time.
Cold.
Yeah. All right, now are we ready to give this episode a rating?
Yes, I've finished all my notes.
Okay, I'll go first in my usual fashion. I'm gonna go ahead and proclaim that I was gonna give this episode a 10.
Oh,
That
wow.
was my initial rating coming into this. But after this discussion, I've decided that this episode actually can achieve unrateable status. I think it is actually a genius episode. It's like beautifully executed, and I think it's an episode. I disagree with you. I think this is an episode that is often referenced, and I would be surprised if the writers of any new Star Trek don't reference this episode as an example of just badassery.
Well, I hope that you're right.
I am.
I am.
I may have to
you're the
reevaluate
captain.
the command structure of the writers' room.
I'm sorry, Captain. I'll pick up a phaser for you. All right, who goes?
All right, now it's your turn. Now, you know I'm not cheating. I didn't steal my rating from you guys, so now it's up to you guys.
Give an order, Captain. who says the rating now?
I don't know. You want me to go next?
Yeah, you already said. Go ahead.
I consider my rating sort of the same of unrateable, except I gave it. So I gave the episode a 10 plus, which basically means for me that not only is it a 10, but it's in my top 10 of best Star Trek episodes ever.
Oh, I like that. That's
I love
really
everything
cool.
about this episode. It's one of my favorite episodes.
Wow, fantastic. I'm glad we did it together. I know I pushed it ahead a little, so thank you.
So 10 plus.
Most 10 plus. I love it. That's a new rating on here. Sean, you can do this before or after your rating, but you got to tell our friend the Martian about your true rating system of things, the 1 through 100 scale, if you wouldn't mind.
The 1 through 100.
Yeah, don't you rate movies, on a scale of 100? Oh, sorry. Okay. Anyways, go on. I totally got excited. We can talk about it after.
I don't really give 10s.
That's true.
Because I don't know, doing a perfect episode is very complicated. But in a world, if you could, in a world where perfection, if I don't know, the closest thing to perfection could be a 10, I think this episode is. I mean, I wanted to give it. I wanted to give it a 9.5.
It's like warp speed. It's 9.9999999.
I'm really trying to find what would take off the 0.5. Like, what would make this a 9.5 rather than a 10? But what is it? Usually, there's always that one thing. Oh, there was that one extra. He did a shit job. But he ruined the episode. He took it from. But I can't find anything in this one.
Yes. I can even say we didn't talk about it at all.
Give me something
but
crap about the episode. There's nothing.
We didn't talk about it at all, but even the effects are beautiful. Like the watching the Romulan warbird and the view screen examine the asteroid and then speed off. Like it all just looks so good. And like the close up shot from behind, which was a new angle with the grid of the nacelle right in your face. Like. And the asteroid field in the back.
The Enterprise inside an asteroid.
I'll satisfy myself
with the lights searching and it's just amazing.
I'll satisfy myself by saying that maybe when this episode originally aired, it was a 9.5, but the remastering of it gave it that extra boost and gave it to it pushed it to that 10, because even the Enterprise going into the asteroid is amazing to watch. The Pegasus,
which is why it's so important that both Deep Space Nine and Voyager get upgraded to HD and remastered, and if it's in the budget, which I think it is, beautiful new versions of those special effects. Like,
I would be a million times more excited that they announced that rather than
CBS,
any number of shows.
To be inspired, CBS, if you need to be inspired, there's plenty of YouTubers out there who have done remastered scenes from both shows. There's a Voyager opening credits that's done remastered, and there's also a Deep Space Nine, I think, opening credits that's done remastered by a fan, and they look gorgeous. So I can only imagine with your budgets,
expertise,
how amazing these can be.
People want it.
And then you can release them. You can release them like weekly on CBS, so people go to your freaking platform. Because I already pay for CBS, but I know plenty of people would pay to watch remastered reissuings of their favorite DS9. And
I think it is a good long-term investment.
Yep.
I think if you
want, not that we have any say, but
no, but Disney Plus released. They released Disney Plus with all of the content in full HD on it. That's what they did. They remastered everything so that all of it was in full HD when it came out. They didn't have anything low quality.
Oh, that's fantastic! I didn't realize that. That makes me feel better about what I pay for.
Retroactively, you will be able. They're going to start, fixing things because there's a problem with the aspect ratio with The Simpsons, that kind of stuff. But they will be fixing that, and so that you can kind of choose your quality or choose your aspect ratio. If you want to watch the original or how it was before, or the remastered or whatever. But I think it's important for the streaming service to provide everything in HD, because you're paying. This is the final form. Essentially, you're not going to buy things anymore. You're going to pay for a service.
Yeah.
And this is the best you can get. you need to provide the best you can get. And I think CBS All Access should be doing that.
It is a little bit more economical in the long run, because I actually remember doing this, and it was like a horrifying experience, and I hated doing it, but I had to do it. And it was like buying those Star Wars movies every single time they revised them, like over and over again. Like that was so annoying.
I remember buying season 1 of The Simpsons on DVD, and in the intro, Matt Groening writes, by the time you collect all the seasons on DVD, you have to do it all over again on the next format. And that's basically when I stopped.
But it's true.
That's basically when I stopped collecting DVDs. I was like, yeah, this is never going to end.
It also solves the issue.
I was an early adopter of like, the illegal at the time, watching stuff online that eventually became legal. I used to, I remember the show Lost would come out on Thursdays, and on Fridays the episode would be on ABC.com. Which was very rare back then for any show to do that. And so when that started happening, I was like, I'm not going to just be forced to sit in front of the TV on Thursday now. I'll go out to drink or whatever and then watch the episode on Friday.
You have the option.
I was an early adopter of all that stuff, because I was like, I don't want to collect DVD, then Blu-ray, then this, then that, And the only thing I see now is that, there's 4K, there's actually already 12K out there. There's even more, so
the eye doesn't go past, I think, 6K, so don't worry about all the 12.
I don't even worry about 4K. I think
but you don't have to worry about it if the streaming service has it.
And that's the only thing that's going to change. Right. They'll have to re-release, re-update things for whatever new kind of.
But you typically don't pay more, which is great. You're just paying a monthly prescription.
And it's just all being done there. It's like updating software.
The big word, the big canon word. Using Star Wars, for example, there's no longer a debate for which version is the valid version or whatever. It's the version that's currently on Disney Plus. That's it. That's the version that they are putting on Disney Plus. That is the version that they are selling currently, and that is the canon version. And you could that's
called McClunky. Just so you know, that's called McClunky. There's a word for that.
What do you mean?
McClunky. What you just described, that's called McClunky.
What did I just
McClunky.
Give me the description of McClunky.
So Greedo, okay, you know how Han shot first and then Greedo shot first and then they both shot at the same time, right?
Okay.
Now you have no idea what is happening because George Lucas inserted Greedo's newest line. During the whole thing, he goes, McClunky. So you're so distracted by McClunky that you can't even tell what's happening. I don't even know
who
George
shot Lucas
first
done
now.
that. That's just the version that Disney Plus just released, isn't it?
But it's his. He requested the upgrade or the addition.
I think
so
he's
the
a
most
troll.
Official. He
recorded that himself in his studio just a few months prior to the release of Disney Plus on McClunky, and then sent it to Disney Plus. You gotta add this in somewhere.
And he just started laughing. He was like,
he fixed it.
They should just add over that scene now, just scene missing, like the old school movies. Just scene missing.
Anyways, we've done it. We've done it. We finally jumped the shark.
He's all like, I'm gonna do something which is so ridiculous. They're gonna talk about it more than the next movie that comes out.
Which it worked. 100%. He's a genius. It totally worked. McClunky.
No.
Anyway,
bringing it back to Star Trek.
Sorry.
There were three different versions of The Wrath of Khan that you can watch. 3 different versions of Star Trek 6 that you can watch. There's a version with Renee Auberjonois in it in Star Trek 6, and there's a version without. The plot is significantly changed.
Renee version. Interesting.
The plot is significantly changed. Which one is the official version?
Changed.
Which is the official story? Which one is canon?
That's
no one the fuck knows.
That's actually going to get worse now. There's been talk now of basically movies, and you actually already see it. I don't know if you've noticed that movies like, let's say, Avengers Endgame, they'll film another 30 minutes of it and cut it out. And so there's talk now of actually releasing unfinished movies.
No, DC have been doing that for years now.
And then just providing the finished version in the DVD.
But DC have been doing that for years now. But the problem, it's still solved with the video on demand service, because the version that they put on the CBS All Access, I don't know if they have all the movies on there, all the Star Trek movies on there. But if they were to put all the Star Trek movies on there, the version that they have out is the version that you should. That's the version that you need to take as canon.
Right.
Yes,
right.
I don't like the fact that movies have kind of like DLCs now. It's like downloadable content for movies. They put out Batman v Superman and there's missing 30 minutes of it. Or they put out Suicide Squad because they have like a due date and like, oh, we'll just add a few like more shit later. It's like that's not, I don't like that.
That's exactly where it's coming from, because video games are making so much more money than movies, and it's a big part is because they can do DLCs, they can do microtransactions, they can do all that stuff that movies can't do.
I'll tell you what though.
Interesting.
On my this is my personal conviction and my personal. No director or no studio is ever going to care about this, but if you put out a movie in theaters and it's shit, all right, and then you put out like a version where you say, oh, well, we have 45 minutes more content to make the movie make more sense, I will refuse to watch that, and I will still forever consider your movie shit. I will not watch your fixed version. If you want to put out a better version of your movie, you put it out in theaters, I paid to go and see that, you do it right, all right? Fuck off with your DLC.
George Lucas, did you hear that, George Lucas?
Hot take.
Did you hear that? Hot take. Not only a hot take, actually, he's mad. He's like, I'm not going to go see it. He's like, I refuse McClunky.
I'm McClunky,
Sean just rejected McClunky. He's just like, no McClunky for me, guys. That's a good point. I actually, all kidding aside,
Music
I
albums
actually
is the
like...
same thing now. People put out albums on streaming services, and then they change them. Like people put out albums.
I was even talking recently about how the whole concept of the album is pretty much not even thought of anymore. It's just
it used to be an event. It used to be a thing.
No, absolutely. I remember going to buy every Radiohead album at midnight when it would come out.
But I mean,
I know you did. That's right.
Be very important. It would be very important to work on an album. Its aesthetic, its kind of vibe. It was a project and it was a statement. Nowadays, it's just a bunch of tracks that they throw together, put it out, and there are tracks that are like removed, replaced. There are featurings that are added. It's like it's kind of scary.
But, okay, so for the greater good of the Federation, though, ultimately, as a creator, I love the idea that it's so easy to fix bad content that I created. You know, so from that perspective, like, if I truly passionately believe that I didn't do it right the first time and I wanted to fix it, like, I think that's a great world as well to live in.
Okay, but
and so
what
I
about...
think that, like, I think, here's the thing, I think that, like, I think what should be happening soon, if it's not already happening on any service, is version histories. So you can click on a song and it'll say version history, and it'll, like, have every version, you know, of the song available to you to listen to, so you can listen to your favorite version of the song. I think that could be a thing. So you watch your favorite version of Star Wars. You don't have to you don't have to be forced to McClunky. You can actually go back. You can go, oh no, I want the preview. You know, I want like the original definitive collection. You know, like with no enhancements whatsoever, and you can watch that version.
Well, it's just like anything. As kind of a technology makes things easier to do, you get more. You get a lot of good out of that, but then you get a lot of like mediocre to bad.
So the thing is,
it's easier to edit a movie now. It's easier to make fixes like that. It's easier to put out music. So there's more music now than ever, and so you hear a lot of people like, "Oh, music sucks now." It's like, it doesn't suck. It's just that there's more of it, and so because of that, there's more kind of there's more mediocre stuff in a sense for the personal person. You know, for the individual. So you gotta. It's harder to find the stuff that really moves you. The people who are still making actual albums, as opposed to CDs. Because then, you know, like Blade Runner has like 7 versions, and like 4 of them are approved by Ridley Scott. So like, which one?
But there's the final.
What's the actual
one called
movie
the final cut, which is the final version.
And is it?
Ultimately, what's great though is we are living. You know, gatekeepers come up in Star Trek a lot, but previous to this time in history, and Seth, this is not my thought, Seth Godin gets all the credit for this, but we are in a post-gatekeeper world in general, whereas there used to be barriers to entry. Like if you wanted to be published online, you had to find an agent, you had to like have your book read, blah blah blah. That gate is gone, like, and that's a wonderful gate to be gone, you know. It doesn't mean it's easier to be a published author, just, you know, or to get notoriety, or to get your you know your work out to as many people as you want, as you think it's worth seeing, but it does give you the access that you never had before, you know. So I think that, like, ultimately all these things are repercussions of, like, in a way, a greater kind of movement that's rising around. I know I always try to see the silver lining.
Well, no, I mean, to me,
because on a certain level, like, say an artist is still alive, a huge artist, Katy Perry, right? She releases a song, and let's say she's not too happy with the way she performed on one of the verses, or she retroactively wants to change some of the lyrics. So she does a new version of the song. She puts it out on the album. It's her decision in a sense, creatively, and that's fine. But let's say your favorite album is an old Michael Jackson album. He's not around anymore, right? What the hell happens when the studio decides to, on that album, which is the only album that they have on, Apple streaming or whatever it is,
right,
Spotify? What happens when they decide to cut a verse or change the editing, or add a friggin' featuring artist that they want to push currently onto the song?
But I think that at that point, I think
that's where Sohail's point, I think, finds the balance.
Yeah. Right.
Let me buy access to Thriller, and then there's the original version that Michael Jackson made on there, and then there's the version with Lil Wayne, whoever,
Which, by the way, what you described, Sean, happens because people nowadays also take original songs and they're it's called sampling, I think, or I'm sorry, I sound like such an idiot, but famous example is like the Ice Baby, and then they use the cha-ching and the whatever and all these things, but there are DJs that do a lot of really interesting, funky stuff with like Michael Jackson's work and manipulate it and change it. And
but that's different. That's not what I mean. What I mean is if you go and listen to Thriller, but all of a sudden you have the verse of someone else in some sort of place, or like.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen.
Or like what?
Two things also. With Thriller, as an example, it's protected. There's so much physical media out there with the original version of Thriller that that won't ever disappear. Like, you will always have access to Thriller as it was made by Michael Jackson. Yeah, it's like that. But for newer works, totally valid. You could potentially erase from existence a work. But again, if it's the artist's choice, I fully support it. If it's not the artist's choice, then yes, of course I'm against it.
It takes away from the specialness of an album, or even a novel.
One thing I'll say to Sean's point, though, is that, for instance, the original Star Trek series is on Netflix, but they have the digitally remastered versions with the new fancy effects. I can't stand them. I want the old ones with the crappy effects where they can't walk in front of the view screen, all that. But I can't find that anywhere. I have to bootleg it, or I have to do something like that. Where
KCBS All Access.
And there's, to Sean's point, there's no. It kind of like I'm locked out of that. Like, I like the original Star Wars where you see the boxes around the X-wings. It doesn't bother me because to me it's a time capsule of when the movie was, or the product was made.
This, you can switch from the remastered to the non-remastered.
Oh, nice! Is that
wow? You haven't opened it? What kind of person are you?
I have opened it.
No, I'm just kidding.
I have opened it.
Oh, sorry, it looks sealed.
It's my Blu-rays.
It looks beautiful.
It's Blu-ray of the original series and the animated series together. And you
protect physical media.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ruben, that's why.
Why is there not one of these for every just the same aesthetic, the same design for TNG? Which he says that I would buy that.
Pretty packaging.
I heard. I asked that question once because I was really annoyed because I like things to look the same, in terms of sets and stuff like that. And someone told me it all depends on the success of the previous version, because what happens is when they don't get their expected returns, they're like, "Oh, something was wrong with the packaging."
Right. Or they cut the budget for the packaging.
Of course.
Right.
Maybe the most recent packaging of the original series didn't work because it's like the 1700 packaging of the original series, and everyone already has it, right?
And everyone's already going to.
I used to love
all right, guys.
Those box sets that when you put all the movies together, it would form like an image.
Which Star Trek did?
The VHS.
Do you remember the VHS? So
the
original VHS Star Trek created an image when you put them all together. It was a great.
Since it was VHS, it was like a 20-mile long box.
It's true. It's true. Speaking of speaking of VHS, a dead media, we have to wrap up the show. I don't know. That was a really bad transition. But before we go, I would love it if you gentlemen would share whatever you'd like to promote with the audience and how to follow you on social media channels, please. And Ruben, you may go first.
All right, you can follow me on pretty much on Twitter at rmartian. It's the letter R with Martian. Or rmartian76 on Instagram, even though I never post anything on Instagram. I'm like the worst Instagrammer.
And you can find him here on Starfleet Boy.
Oh, Starfleet Boy! Yes, I do a podcast, which is on hiatus right now. The Citizens of Multiple Earths podcast, where we talk about comic books and other stuff. But it's on hiatus until March. That's on Jolt Radio. What else? I'm writing scripts. I'm working on my website, Ruben-Writes.com, because somebody has Rubenwrites.com, but they're not doing anything with
What
it.
a dick.
And they want to sell it for a lot, so screw you. Ruben-Writes.com coming soon.
Just for that dash. I like dash. People remember dash.
Ruben
And it always reminds me of the dash drive, the displacement activated spore hub drive, which is what the Discovery has.
Oh,
This is the
there
second
you go.
time I've done.
I totally did it on purpose.
Anyways,
hell do you know
Sean's
that?
like, "Oh my god, what is wrong with you? This is a
Wow.
new level. You've reached a new level."
Isn't it just the spore drive? That's amazing.
No, it's the displacement activated spore hub drive. They say it in the show.
Wow. I've been wowed.
That's right. That's
He's
right.
speechless. He's speechless.
I don't know what to say.
You're just wowing because I pulled it out of my feeble brain, which normally fails, and I didn't have to look it up. That's
Well,
why.
there's part of
Normally I have
that,
to
but
look
there's
everything
also
up.
the fact that they've actually given it it's more than just the spore drive. There's actually an entire name to it, which I'm impressed.
Oh yeah, totally.
So there's levels to my wowed. To my
Oh my
wowness.
gosh, the Star Trek writers just like they can have their jobs for 2 more days just because of that.
No.
You're like, oh, maybe we can't fire them all. It's like-
2 more days
Sean,
with lunch breaks.
I dream for you that you will end up on the Star Trek writers' room, and I can't wait till they're like, we saw every episode of Starfleet Boy, and you were so mean to us, and we're gonna prove to you that you're wrong. And welcome to the team.
We're gonna let you write an episode and then ridicule you.
As of now,
Ridicule you, it's
as
true.
of now, I want to be part of the Lower Decks project and work for Mike McMahon. I want to
We totally endorse
do a
your,
voice
application.
on the cartoon, or write jokes for the show, or bring him coffee. I don't care. I want to.
I want the same job for Patrick
I want to
Stewart or
design
Alex
aliens.
Kurtzman.
I don't know.
I just want to. I want to be their. There's what's the politically correct term for be their bitch? I want to be their assistant.
Don't
what I
assistants
wanna
go
be.
on strike because they're considered bitches?
I won't. I'll be
You
the
won't.
assistant
You're
that
fine.
You can
You're
can
the one that
totally
kills the
ask me
movement.
to do anything. There's nothing I wouldn't
Cross
do
the picket line.
for, especially for
worst.
Patrick Stewart. Especially for Patrick Stewart, there's no time. He could say, "So hell, I need you to go to Zimbabwe and get me this suede leather that can only be found deep in the jungle where there are alligators and malaria." And I'll be like, "Yes, Mr. Stewart."
Malaria.
Yes, Mr. Stewart, I'm on my way.
Why is he so specific about the malaria thing? Is he sending you off to die?
He's-
If you don't come back with malaria, I'll be very disappointed.
By the way, that's the worst Patrick Stewart impression anyone's ever done. It doesn't sound anything like him, but I thought it was funny. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Did you finish promoting your stuff, Sean?
I don't think
I haven't
we started.
No, you
started.
didn't. Sir, my bad. We're not done yet.
I do stuff. If you enjoy my stuff,
I
thank you.
do the stuffs.
You
I
do
have-
a lot
I
of
ha-
stuff, so
I have my short tricks review coming today. I don't know when, sometime soon. And my podcast might be coming back. Wow! Oh my
Oh,
goodness!
will you show everyone your shirt? Will you show Ruben your shirt? I don't think he can see it.
Return of the podcast.
That's the podcast, everyone. It's called Trek Chat. And can I
Nice.
say can I spoil it a little bit?
If you want, yeah, go ahead.
Starfleet Boys on the latest episode. It's a year after the first episode. He apparently only releases them a year at a time. So I'm very honored that my
10
episode
months.
will be up for a year before you do your next one.
I waited 10 months. Excuse me.
Oh, sorry, 10 months.
Hey, look, time flies. See, if I were the host of Starfleet Boy, we would never finish the next generation on time. It's like, oh my god.
It's true. Very good. All right. Well, thank you very much. Audience, if you would be so kind, we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Please like or dislike this video per your
Shout out to
choice.
William Peck.
Yes, yes, we try to shout him out in every episode. I think he's gonna get mad if we keep doing it. But yes, huge shout out to William Peck. Also Christopher Collins, who are regular contributors to the chat. We
love you both.
Not the chat,
We love
but
you
the
all.
comments. We do. We love you all. And well, I lost my train of thought, but comment below. Oh, and share if you like it. Share the love, because YouTube keeps harassing us. You got to grow your
YouTube
audience.
shares
I
the
wanna
hate
please
too
them.
much, so share the love.
You got to share the love. It's true. All right, everybody, live long and prosper, and we'll see you next time. The first perfect episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation. I can't believe we made it. All right.